Would you like an info card?
I'm good, thanks.
Okay. This is about bodily autonomy for infants. So we just think that when they should get the right to make the decision themselves instead of it being taken from them at birth.
This is a weird hill to die on, don't you think?
I don't think so. I think it would be better if in the future little boys could get to make that decision. I mean, it might seem like a little thing from your perspective, but most in-tech men don't want to get circumcised, for example.
Yeah, because it sucks as an adult.
It does.
But it's easy as a child.
They can also get it done as an adult, but you can't reverse it at an adult age. I would like to reverse it if I could.
Why?
Because
Does it really bother you that much?
It does. I would like to have the natural covering that's supposed to be over it.
Why?
Because it's natural? I mean...
So is like ricin and cyanide. Those are all natural. So just because something's natural doesn't mean it's good.
You think that foreskin is bad?
I just don't care about it all that much. Like, it's just not that important.
It's impossible to realize what you're missing out on without it.
Why? Why is it impossible? Other human accounts exist.
Like, for example, people who have gotten circumcised as adults have reported that sensitivity decreases. There's no way to know that if you're already circumcised.
Yeah, but why does this matter?
Because I just think that they should be allowed to have the full experience.
But why? Like...
Not for me. I mean, it's already too late for me. Yeah, it's already too late for me.
Okay.
But for the future generations.
I'm also circumcised, right? But I'm circumcised by religion.
Right.
Because I'm born Jewish.
Anyone could join the Jewish religion and get circumcised afterward.
Sure.
But if you're born into it, what if you grow up and you turn out not to like the religion?
Okay.
Babies who are circumcised at day 8, you know, they don't get that choice.
So why? Here's my question to you: why lobby to delay that, and instead not work on research that helps you redevelop foreskin?
We're doing it. It's called 4Gen. I'm just, doing this at the same time.
But why? Like, isn't this
prevention?
Isn't this
prevention?
Like a negative feedback loop?
Prevention is the best medicine. We're just trying to look. Here's the thing: some people don't even want their boys circumcised when they're in hospitals, and the doctors push it. We don't want them to be pushed into doing something that they don't want to do.
100%. If your parents don't want you to be circumcised, 100% agree with you. But if your parents want you to be circumcised, right?
I mean, like in the past, the parents would marry the children and not let them pick their mates in the future. Like that was in like the Abrahamic days. Like in the USA, we're more about freedom nowadays. I feel like this would kind of align with that.
There's a bunch of things in other religions that are also basically forced, right?
Yeah, I mean, and a lot of it you might have noticed is hated nowadays. A lot of the Jewish religion, the parts about what women are and aren't allowed to do versus men, you get like pretty much everyone mad about that nowadays. It just comes back to the thing about freedom, whether you agree with it or not. It's just that people want people to be able to make their own decisions.
It is important to you for some reason. It's just like nothing that you'll ever experience. So like, does it really matter? This isn't really a life-changing decision.
I mean, it does change. It does actually affect lives.
So there's not a major life.
Some people have to go in for revisions. They get it so tight that when they get erections, they bleed. They don't have as much sensitivity. They get like super dry after a while because the glands is always exposed.
I don't know about the experiences of others, but I've never heard anyone have these problems.
Yeah, so people will not talk about them, the people who have it. I mean, would you really go around and tell people that you have a problem with your genitals? I mean, obviously I would, but like most people aren't going to come out here with stained blood on their pants.
I'll agree that most people won't talk about their genital problems, but also
it's because it's taboo.
You would think that it's sure, but it's getting less and less taboo, right?
That's true.
As society progresses. So you would think we would hear something.
I mean, we're starting to. If you Google circumcision nowadays versus whenever you last did, there's a ton more info about it, a lot more information websites. It's not getting much traction in politics because most people don't want to deal with that.
Because it's not that important.
I mean, that's how most people view it. We see it as something a lot more important.
Why?
Each person should have their own bodily autonomy, even if all we're doing is like clipping off their pinky toes, like even if it had no value pretty much. We don't really use our pinky toes much.
Value, right? Your pinky toes have value.
Not that much.
Your pinky fingers have value.
Your pinky finger for sure.
Your pinky toe has
seriously,
value.
How would your life be different though, really? Honestly, if you didn't have your pinky toe, do you play piano with your toes or like really?
My pinky toe?
Yeah, well,
it actually adds a lot to your balance.
If people only had 4 of their toes, how would they know the difference?
How would they know the difference between having 5 toes?
I mean, no, the functional difference. They could still balance on 4. It could still work.
Not as well.
Not as well. That's kind of the idea behind this, okay? Right. So people don't realize the foreskin does provide a level of sexual enhancement. Without it, it is diminished. We don't want people to have an unnatural experience with sex. We don't want them to have an unnatural body experience. If they want to get that, that's perfectly fine when they're adults, when they can consent.
So you're also against condoms?
If people want to do that, I mean, they're only going to be having sex as adults anyway, so I don't care what they do.
But it's not natural.
Yeah, and you wouldn't want to put it on a baby either, would you?
I don't see a baby having sex.
No, yeah, exactly. That's exactly the thing. The doctors, they hand out stuff like this, except that it says prevents STDs and stuff. Like, that's what they give to people at the hospital.
Okay.
Why are we concerned about the babies having sex? Like, when they're adults, you know, they can decide all that stuff. Doesn't make sense, you know?
Yeah, but you would want to take preemptive measures for your child. Everything that your parents protect you from, they could just let you suffer through. Like, your parents don't want you to get your hand chopped off. But it's true that if you get your hand chopped off, you'll know not to get your hand chopped off in the future.
I don't want to get my penis chopped off in the future, or at least part of it, you know?
Yeah, but like, if there's adequate cause to circumcise your child, such as preventing STDs, right, then why not?
So do you believe that it prevents STDs?
I don't know. I don't really have a belief on it. I haven't studied it, right?
I have done some study on it, but only research. I have not actually gone out and conducted sample stuff, but the US government did in 2021. Okay. They found out that circumcision doesn't make any difference in a sample of 200,000 men in terms of HIV.
Okay.
So
HIV is a very specific one, right?
Yeah,
because that's
all of these tests are specific too, like the ones done in Africa.
Yeah.
They did it on a very specific set of people, and it was funded by people who wanted to promote it. So that's why I don't really believe these statistics.
By the way, the only reason I'm having this conversation with you specifically is because the other guy called me a retard.
Really? Which one?
The one that's like standing over there. Because I was walking past and I saw the sign and I just laughed.
So most of them are victims themselves, and they don't realize that they're not going to even get their message out. Like, whatever you're protesting, you're not going to get your message out by being rude to people.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure you're all part of the same organization, right?
I'm just a local. I saw their stuff on the internet, so I decided to come out and protest it because, you know, this is something that bothered me personally.
Okay.
So,
I mean, if it bothers you, like, go for it, right? Free speech and all that.
I just want to be out here to make people aware that, for one thing, they don't have to get this done to their babies, and I also believe that, you know, the babies should have their own rights. That's all.
100% agree. I just don't think this is a really big deal.
It may not be a big deal to you, and that's fine.
We might have different like levels of concern about this, right?
Of course.
But
I mean, different people focus on different things, you know. I'm sure you have your own things that you're passionate about. So
100%. My passion is just more aggressive rather than preventive.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like, I'm trying to do new things rather than prevent.
Well, that's good.
But both are valid. The reason why we stopped using things that tore holes in the ozone layer, right?
Right.
Because it was bad for us.
Well, I appreciate that you stopped by and decided that, and I'm sorry people are rude to you. You know, that's how people are in the world. They suck.
Yeah, 100%. Have a nice day, man.
You too.